Hello and welcome back to the Week in Nintendo. This is your episode for the week ending December 6th. It's the 5th today, 2025. I'm your host, Steve Bowling, and I'm joined by someone who is not new to the channel, but of course is new to the Week in Nintendo, my good friend Ash Polson. How are you, Ash?
Hi, I'm good. I'm so happy to finally be here. The win's been going on for a while, and I'm happy to finally be a guest on it.
Yeah, it's good to have you. It's been a while since we've done anything together here on the channel, just because schedules being what they are.
Yeah.
But now that Switch 2 is entering the end of its first calendar year, we've got a lot to talk about. But before that, I wanna catch up with you. What have you been up to lately? What have you been playing? What have you been doing?
Man, just going, making it through each week. Of course, I just picked up Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and I've started playing that, and it is just stunning visually. I'm having a great time going through that. I'm still trying to wrap up Age of Imprisonment. I didn't quite finish it in time for Metroid Prime 4, so I'm still trying to wrap that up in whatever spare time I can find, and otherwise, just kind of getting ready for the holidays. My wife and I may have found like a tiny window we can take a little staycation in Vegas before the holiday deluge begins. So we might be heading there for a little staycation later this month. She's got a bunch of points on her card that would need to be used before the end of the year, or we lose them. So she's like, let's just splurge on a nice room in Vegas and take a few days. And so we're going to try to do that maybe a little later in December. But otherwise, just kind of living life, getting ready. And of course, I do my weekly stream on GVG's Twitch channel every Friday. So I'm playing Control right now on stream. I've been having a great time with that. And so I'll be doing my next Control stream later today.
Nice. Yeah. So you've been pretty busy. I mean, I wish I could find time for a vacation. I don't have. I know. It's weird because, like, you know, all y'all who are OGs know that I have a day job, and the paid time off is just stacking up. I don't know what to do with it because I can't possibly go anywhere. I have been playing a lot. Like, I feel like right now as a Switch 2 owner, it's kind of that meme of like Melissa Joan Hart and everyone's giving her plates of food, you know?
Oh God, I hear you.
I downloaded Assassin's Creed Shadows this week. That one I think is not in the best state currently. It crashes. No, and I promise you, I'm not exaggerating, like every 5 minutes.
Jeez, really?
Yeah, I was really excited to play it because, you know, Ubisoft did such a good job with Outlaws that I really felt like it was important to get in on this one early and evaluate it. And I just haven't had the best time. It crashes very, very frequently. Apparently there's a patch coming out in a week or two that will solve this. I think it's on the 15th is when that patch is going to come out, and we'll see, because obviously Outlaws started off good and it just got better. Whereas with Shadows, particularly in docked, it's a little rough. Like, it's got really, really poor frame pacing. In handheld, it's a bit of a marvel because they have like custom VRR to keep it looking smooth at 30 FPS. So when you play it in handheld, it's kind of neat. But,
cool. Okay.
I just wish that the docked experience was a bit better, and it sounds like they're going to solve that. But I mean, outside of that, we also had the Red Dead Redemption Switch 2 upgrade that was free.
Yeah.
Which is how you should do it. Like, if you're updating a Switch 1 game, the ideal way to do it is for free. And that's like 60 FPS HDR now. Looks sharper on Switch 1. It's just really, really a nice package. Nice. And then, of course, like you, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And this game kind of swooped in out of nowhere for me. I definitely was not as worried about it as some were in the community. Like, I saw a lot of people kind of hand-wringing about this, and I was like,
the Miles thing, yeah.
And honestly, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Miles rocks. Like, I like Miles.
Nice. Yeah. I wasn't that worried either. I'm not as far into the game as you are, but the main thing I was worried about was that Nintendo did so little marketing for it, and it seemed like they were kind of trying to sneak it out the door. But the previews I weren't worried about. I was like, okay, you know, we've had Samus be around chatty, you know, NPCs before. As long as there's still a lot of isolation there, I think we're going to be fine. And it sounds like there still really is. I mean, I certainly have felt that so far in my playthrough of the game. And I think the previews maybe were a little bit overwrought about that aspect of the game.
Yeah, I agree with folks that the kind of core of Metroid is this feeling of isolation and being lost in an alien land and trying to, fight your way to freedom, right? And I will, without going into any spoilers, because this isn't the core of what we're talking about today,
Right.
I will just say that I think they preserve that really well while balancing out with having kind of an NPC to deliver narrative at points. But you'll still get that feeling that you're kind of alone in a terrifying place for the majority of the game. And I think that that's really important and cool.
Yeah. Definitely. If anything, I would say that I kind of wish that Samus, to me, the awkward part is not that people are talking to her. It's that she doesn't talk back. I kind of wish Samus had a little dialogue of her own because she's not a mute character. We've seen in other Metroid games that she talks. Not a lot, but she talks. And so it's a little weird that she doesn't really respond to anybody, you know?
Yeah, there's this kind of strange juxtaposition that Nintendo finds themselves in where they've got these kind of set ideas for how their characters need to behave, and they kind of fly in the face of modern storytelling in video games.
Yeah.
It made a lot more sense in the 90s and the 80s when everything was conveyed by text, where you just had people where you didn't have the main character recap everything.
Right.
But when you're talking about games that are fully voiced, it does feel weird to have one person like talking and then just the main character is mute the entire time, just kind of emoting at them instead. And I'm like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I understand why they did it because Other M got a lot of criticism, maybe deservedly so,
for sure,
for how Samus behaved in that game.
Yeah,
and I could see them being a little gun shy about that. But then you create a situation where we're all wondering about the upcoming Zelda movie and if Link is actually going to talk in it. And I'm like, it'd be absurd if he didn't.
That is one that my wife and I have talked about so much. Like, it's so hard even to imagine a live action Zelda movie before even getting to the subject of him talking or not. But then once you get past just kind of trying to imagine it in your head, it's like, yeah, they can't not have him talk in a movie, right? But it's still going to be weird to have any version of Link that isn't the CDI version or the cartoon version talking normally.
Yeah, I appreciated that in Breath of the Wild, in that universe, that they at least explained why Link didn't talk. You had to go digging for it, but you could find the reason why he was so stoic. But I find it strange, like, that Nintendo kind of still sticks to this, like this, going on 50-year-old design ethos for their characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts to think that we are halfway through the 2020s and a lot of these characters are 40 years old and we're still kind of sticking with this. I think that there was probably a good middle ground, and who knows, we're both very early in the game. Maybe she does talk at some point. I kind of doubt it.
I don't think so. I'm guessing.
But it's definitely a strange position to be in where you have characters now who are very expressive and very emotive, and she's in there with them and just saying nothing. So I wouldn't even call it a criticism, but it does take you out of it just a little bit, because the reality is, like, if you were talking to someone and they just weren't responding, you'd be like, are you all right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
It just wouldn't make, it doesn't make sense when you think about it too much, but it doesn't, it's not a huge criticism. It's just something, it's ironic. I'm not a big Silent Protag fan in general, even though Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time. But there's something about silent protagonists that just doesn't, it works in Zelda to a degree, but I just kind of want to have a character that just talks back to the people who talks to them. It just kind of slightly pulls me out a little bit every time it happens, but it's not like a deal breaker or anything, of course.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like we're watching Nintendo grow up before our eyes, and they're kind of taking these baby steps into modernity. And so I think we will eventually see Samus talk, or we'll see, I think Mario will likely be the first one to break the silence, as it were, because he's been inching towards that since 1996.
Right.
But I feel like as we get more Nintendo characters into film and other things like that, it's just going to have to be a thing. Like they're going to get people who are used to, whose first interactions with them are from the films, and then they're going to come to the games and be like, why doesn't he say anything?
Right. But then of course you have these, specific series within Nintendo that go full throated into voice acting, pun not intended, like Star Fox and Kid Icarus. So they'll do it when the time is right and the situation is right. But it's just something they kind of seem to shy away from most of the time.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the legacy of those characters because, like you said, it's weird to think of Star Fox as young, but compared to Mario, he came at the tail end of the Super Nintendo generation, like a full decade after Mario had been on the scene. So Star Fox is 30, Mario's 40. I hate life. But
I hear that. Yeah.
We are not here to talk solely about Metroid Prime 4. We'll probably have another separate discussion for that. Let us know, by the way, in the comments if you want to hear us just ramble about Metroid Prime 4 for an hour. We can do that.
For sure.
But this isn't the vehicle for that. Today, I want to talk to you, Ash, about 2026 because we're here. It's the 5th of December, and that's an important date for Nintendo for this year because this is effectively the end of 2025 for first-party Switch 2 output. Metroid Prime 4 is here. It's the last breath, from Nintendo until next year. We know very little about what's going to come out for the Switch 2, particularly from Nintendo next year. I've got a short list here. We have Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, which we learned about in the most recent Direct. With a nebulous 2026 date. We have Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which again, no date, but it is coming next year. It's in the spring. We have Mario Tennis Fever, which we do have dated. That is February 12th. We have Pokemon Pokopia, which we also have a date for on March 5th. Then I know you're waiting on pins and needles for this one. We have Rhythm Heaven Groove, which again is just 2026. Tomodachi Life, which is in the spring. And finally, we have the Switch 2 edition of Super Mario Wonder sometime in 2026 with a little bit of extra content added to it.
There's one more I think you didn't mention, though.
Oh, did I miss one?
Unless I missed it. Splatoon Raiders?
Oh, you're right. I did miss it. Splatoon Raiders. And then notable third-party stuff, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade in January, just a month away from today, I think.
Right, yeah.
And then we have Elden Ring, which I can't remember if that has a date yet, but it's in 2026 now. It was supposed to be October. They're taking time with that. We have Mina the Hollower, which I have to assume is coming out in 2026.
I think so. I would think, it didn't sound like the delay was going to be all that long when they announced it. So I'm thinking that'll be 2026. Also, I think you mentioned Indiana Jones, right, before we started recording.
Isn't
that coming?
Indiana Jones is coming to Switch 2. Yeah, notable third-party stuff, but we don't have a ton of info on what Nintendo is going to be doing for the rest of the year. So I kind of want to take this space to talk about what we want to see from the Switch 2 going into its second calendar year or the second half of its first year on the market. And I'm going to throw it to you first, Ash. Just what is your dream scenario here?
My dream scenario is, I already got that with Rhythm Heaven. I was just begging for a new Rhythm Heaven game. Fortunately, the creator has recovered from his illness and can come back and do a new game. So really, that was my dream scenario. But beyond that, I'm still pining for a Kid Icarus Uprising port. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but that would be a pretty dream announcement for me. Bring Kid Icarus Uprising back and let us play it on the big screen. I think that would be really exciting.
That's a compelling question because I want to tie that into something else because you, out of all of us, probably are more into Smash.
Yeah.
And obviously Sakurai is responsible for both of these games, Kid Icarus and Smash, and he's obviously just released Kirby Air Riders.
Right.
Where do you see his efforts going next? What is next on the to-do list for Sakurai? Do you think he's going into Smash, or do you think he might tackle a smaller project, comparatively smaller, like Kid Icarus Uprising?
I was actually just asked this question on stream last week, and I said it there. I'll say it again now. I do have this feeling that Sakurai is working on Smash now. I think, Kirby Air Riders was clearly like a dream project of his, and I'm glad he got to make it. The man deserves to make what he wants to make after delivering so many Smash games. But I just have this feeling, it's kind of like the Hideo Kojima effect, right? Kojima always said while he was still at Konami, I'm not making another Metal Gear. I don't want to make another Metal Gear. And then he made another Metal Gear. And so I have a feeling that Sakurai's next project is going to be, I think he's got at least one more Smash in him. And I'd be surprised if he was doing two smaller projects in a row. I kind of have a feeling Nintendo's tapping him for Smash 6 right now.
See, I have a different pet theory, and it's that he's working on, I don't know if it's specifically Kid Icarus, but I think he is working technically on Smash, in a much more supervisory capacity, and I'll explain why in a second.
Okay.
And I think he's also in tandem working on a smaller project that he is much more involved with.
Okay.
And for the sake of arguments, we'll say it's Kid Icarus, because he has kind of sort of teased, like, oh, do you want Kid Icarus Uprising to come back, right?
Yeah.
So my thought is this, because obviously in the lead up to Switch 2, we started seeing just new spirits after support was ended for Smash Ultimate, which tells me that the development team at Bandai Namco, right, was kind of back familiarizing themselves, with the work done on that game. Easiest way to do that, add some content that's not super high lift, right? I could see them basically saying, okay, Sakurai, we want you to oversee the production of a Switch 2 edition of Smash Ultimate to tide people over until we can fully produce a brand new from the ground up Smash for the Switch 2. Because there's no doubt in my mind we're going to get a brand new Smash Brothers game
for sure
in this generation. There's too much money to leave left on the table for that not to happen.
Yeah.
But I could see them basically saying, okay, maybe this new Singapore studio, which was part of Bandai Namco that they picked up, is going to assist in up-resing assets to go to 4K on Smash Ultimate, right? You could maybe have a 4K 60 FPS Smash Ultimate with new textures, just looks a lot nicer. Not that Smash Ultimate had performance issues, but it would run very well, right? Or maybe you could up the player count from like 8 to 16, something crazy.
Maybe even go for 120 FPS.
Yeah, they could. It would have to be 1080 120, but still, you could. 120 FPS in Smash would be fire. Like that would be really great.
Yeah, it would.
Just because that would be like, Smash can be difficult to parse at 60 FPS. At 120, it'd be even easier, right? So you could go that route. But either way, I think they're working on enhancing Smash Ultimate to bring it to the Switch 2. Probably charge $10 for the privilege or whatever. And that brings a new team, like a new external team that Sakurai can then oversee production of, or link up with and work directly on production of whatever the next Smash is. But I think they might use a Switch 2 edition of Smash Ultimate to train up a team and then say, okay, now that you guys understand the basics of Smash and how it works from a, construction perspective, Sakurai will direct you on how to make the next one, right? Right. So that's kind of what he did with Bandai Namco with Ultimate.
Right.
And I could see him just, his main efforts, he'd almost be like the Miyamoto to this effort, like where he is the one who rubber stamps it and says, okay, it's good to go now.
Yeah.
And while he works on like Kid Icarus Uprising or something, because I'd love to see Kid Icarus. Mouse mode is like made for that.
I know it is.
So I can't. I mean, I just, that's my rhythm heaven. Because you and I are both left-handed, but you were able to play that game. And for me, it caused me no endless amount of physical pain, like to play it that way. And so I would love to have it in a more accessible way that I could actually play it and not feel like, I need to put my wrists in hot water afterwards.
Right. And plus, it's just such a cinematic game. Just to be able to play it on the big screen would be so cool. My only concern, and the main reason I think that we may never have the privilege of getting that to happen, is because, Smash, when they brought back when they did like the Palutena's, whatever it's called, when she comments on the
Palutena's guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. When they comment on the characters, they didn't bring back the voice actors from Uprising because I think they're union voice actors. So my concern is that they're not going to want to pay for the privilege of reusing the union voice actors for a re-release of Kid Icarus Uprising, because the sales may not be there, kind of like they weren't for the 3DS version. So that's my concern about it.
I get the concern, and if it were anybody but Sakurai, I would agree with you. But Nintendo seems to show like a different level of deference to Sakurai than they do other developers.
True.
I don't think we'd have Kirby Air Riders if he didn't want to do it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think that was probably a passion project for him, and they were like, you know what, you've earned this one. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. So I could see them. If he was truly insistent on it, I could see them letting him have that.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see, right?
Yeah.
My biggest hope for 2026 is that we see kind of, this sounds weird, but I kind of want it to be like a year of weird franchises. And we're already kind of halfway there, right? Tomodachi Life, Rhythm Heaven. as much as I want like a new 3D Mario and a new Zelda, and we will almost certainly get one of those. My money is on 3D Mario next year.
You think so? So soon after Bonanza? You think?
I do think so, because from what I've heard post-release from DK is that Yoshiaki Koizumi was not directly involved with Bonanza, which means he had to be working on something else. And there's only one other thing that he could really be working on that would make sense, right? He's, love it or hate it, the Mario guy at Nintendo now. And so I incorrectly assumed back in April when I was playing it that he was helming that game, because he was there. He was in the room and he was watching us play it. And so I was like, oh, Koizumi must have directed and produced this game, and he didn't. So that tells me that he probably had a smaller team splinter off and work on Bonanza, and probably had a group of core people that he trusts working on Mario with him in tandem. And I guess Bonanza got across the finish line first. So I would think that next year we get like a 3D Mario that I'm hoping is something, just really new to the franchise. I can't get over the idea that it's going to be like a big open world Mario game. And that's what I hope we see. But I really want this to be the year of just the weird stuff. Like, give me Star Fox, give me WarioWare, give me games like that. Like the smaller games that don't get enough love. Give me a new F-Zero. I'm not even an F-Zero person. I'd love to see that.
I've been pining a long time for a new Wave Race, and I would love to see a new Wave Race in 2026. That would be, other than Rhythm Heaven, that's like the one franchise I'd like to see Nintendo revisit again. It's been so long since Blue Storm back in the GameCube, and Wave Race 64, if you go back and play it on NSO right now, or sorry, Nintendo Classics now, it really holds up. Wave Race 64 really holds up, and I hope they release Blue Storm on GameCube Classics, just because it's been a long time since I played that game. But bring back Wave Race, and that's a weird franchise too, so I'd love them to do that.
I would love to see Wave Race make a return. I'm right there with you. I played the hell out of 64. I played even more Blue Storm. Blue Storm's water physics are impressive even today.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that feels, and I've thought this ever since I first played Mario Kart World, that there has to be a Wave Race in the works somewhere. Because one thing Nintendo loves to do is reuse their tech. Like, if they can repurpose a piece of a game and turn it into another game, they do that. And the water physics in Mario Kart World are just a little too good. Like they're
I agree.
Like, it feels like they focused a lot on that. And I feel like when you put in that level of effort, they're like, why don't we just make a game that's all water?
Right.
And exactly what that game needs to be.
Exactly.
I could see that being huge. And maybe that's our, I know you're pretty keen on Air Riders, but for me, maybe that's my Air Riders moment, right?
Sure.
Like this hyper specific game that Nintendo made a long time ago that I want back.
What's funny about Air Riders? I didn't care for Air Ride. I was not a fan of it. And I wasn't part of that really specific community that loved it. And then something clicked for me with Air Riders. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, I get it with Air Riders, even though I didn't the original game. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm very much kind of like Air Ride wasn't for me. Air Riders is not for me.
Right.
I've played Road Trip, and I thought that was at least it communicated like, oh, here's how people find enjoyment in this. But I mean, ultimately, I was kind of biding time until Metroid came along.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I gotta say, I'm very hopeful for Nintendo's 2026. I think that we have kind of a good selection of games that we know about. I think that I'm really curious though, do we think we're going to see Nintendo? Do you think Nintendo's going to focus on smaller franchises, or do you think they're going to try to continue to keep this once a month cadence of pretty big games?
I mean, we've already got kind of a mix already, right? I mean, Fire Emblem, I think by today's standards, we would consider a huge franchise. And that's, they're working on a brand new Fire Emblem. They're working on a new Splatoon. That's a huge franchise by today's standards. So we've already got kind of a mix, right, of smaller stuff like Rhythm Heaven, Tomodachi. Then we got Fire Emblem, Splatoon. I think we're going to see a bit of a mix. You were saying 3D Mario earlier. I don't think we're going to see a new Zelda yet. I don't think it's time for that. We just got Echoes of Wisdom, obviously. The Switch 2 versions of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. Maybe we'll get ports of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. Maybe. Who knows? It feels like it would have happened by now if they're thinking of doing that. But I do think we're going to see a cadence between, bigger and smaller franchises still. I don't think it's going to be a year dedicated only to smaller franchises, just by virtue of the fact that we already know Fire Emblem and Splatoon are on the way, right?
Yeah, I think you can't really afford to dominate any one year with major franchises. I agree with you. 3D Zelda still feels a ways off. I feel like it has to be a 2027 release, which would make sense, especially if you're trying to kind of drop a big game, around the same time as the movie, right?
Right. Yeah.
I could see Nintendo dropping, a new 3D Zelda just before the movie, being like, here's, something. If you went to the movie and you want to play the game, get this one.
Right.
We've seen Galaxy 1 and 2 getting released like an absurdly long time before the movie. It feels like Nintendo really should have dropped Galaxy 1 and 2 like a week before the movie. Like just put them out, because then people would search for Super Mario Galaxy, unless Nintendo's next game is Galaxy 3.
I was going to say, if you want to go there, I was going to say maybe they did that because Galaxy 3 is their next big Mario announcement.
Oh, dude.
That would be amazing.
If they announce Galaxy 3, I and most of the internet would lose our collective minds.
I would melt. Galaxy is still my favorite 3D Mario, so I would melt if they did that.
Yeah, I'm torn. There's a lot. I had to think about this recently because Derek did his top 25 games of all time, and I did the monologue for Super Mario 64 for that. And I do think there's an interesting conversation to be had about like impact versus quality, if that makes sense. Like, I think if you take Mario 64 as it was for its time, I think it stands out among the field as like definitely the most influential Mario game.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
And in comparative quality to the field of games around it, I would say it stood out much more than any other Mario game ever has. But I like the Galaxy games a lot more. Like when I go back to play them again, I think about Galaxy way more in terms of I want to play this again than I do 64 these days.
Right.
So I'd probably agree with you. Galaxy is probably my favorite. A Galaxy 3 for the movie would be really cool. Where do you think? Let's take a look at the. Do we think we're going to see? This is one that I think gets asked a lot, and none of us really know what's going on. Do you think Next Level is cooking something for next year?
Maybe. We haven't really heard what they're doing lately. So that's true. Yeah, I mean, and also we have to ask the question not only about Next Level, but also Retro. Retro just released Prime 4. What are they going to be doing next, right? I mean, nothing too soon. Obviously, takes Retro a while to cook, but we have to start asking that question too. What's next for them as well, right?
Yeah, I think with Next Level, I mean, it's been an appropriately long time since the release of Luigi's Mansion 3 that we should expect something relatively imminent from them.
I think so too. Yeah.
It's the thing that I find that I hope, and this is in no way meant to throw shade on Luigi's Mansion, but I hope that they're not just going to become like the de facto Luigi's Mansion developers, the same way Bungie became the Halo guys, or 343 is now the Halo guys, right? I really don't want to see them get kind of typecast into doing one type of game and one only. I would truly love to see a new Punch-Out from them. Their animation techniques are top notch, and I replayed Wii's Punch-Out recently, and I'm like, why did we never get another one of these?
Great game. Yeah, because I mean, they did work on Mario Strikers Battle League in between Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, I don't, but Battle League was a drop in the bucket, right? It came and went so quickly, and I don't think they'd be doing another Mario sports game next. So I agree with you. I don't want them just to be Luigi's Mansion Studio. I wouldn't be upset if they're working on Luigi's Mansion 4, but I don't want to typecast them into that role, right? And I agree with you. A new Punch-Out would be really cool to see.
Heck, do we know who's working on Mario Tennis? I don't actually know who's making that.
Yeah, and I don't know if we do.
Nintendo does not tell anybody. Let's see, Mario Tennis Fever. I'm Googling live.
Yeah,
Mario Tennis Fever developer.
Oh, Camelot?
Is it Camelot? I was going to say, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay. I was going to say Camelot are the ones that should be doing it, but I don't put anything past Nintendo sometimes with this stuff. So yeah, that leaves Next Level open. And just when you said Mario Strikers, I was like, I wonder if they really put Next Level games on Mario Tennis, which wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, I would love to see what Next Level is up to. I know it's not Nintendo first party. I desperately want to see the new Professor Layton game. I know that got pushed back quite a bit. Although I've heard they're working with AI stuff now. I'm not sure how I feel about. Well, I know how I feel about all that. But this is a non-explicit podcast, so I can't say.
Right.
But
good.
Oh no, please go ahead.
Oh, you were mentioning Derek's video, and that got me thinking about Monolith Soft, because for that video I did the blurb about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And so that got me thinking about what is Monolith Soft up to. Obviously, we just got Xenoblade X Definitive Edition earlier this year, but looking to next year, I'm wondering what they're cooking. Are we going to see maybe a Xenoblade 4 announcement, or maybe before that we'll get Switch 2 upgrades for Xenoblade 2 and 3? Maybe we'll get like a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition. Obviously Xenoblade 2 and 3 are not the best looking games on Switch. They could certainly do with a Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition upgrade, visually and performance wise. So what do we think they're working on? Is it going to be a brand new game or upgrades of 2 and 3 maybe?
This is an interesting question, because I think I tie this to what is the Zelda team up to, because obviously Monolith Soft played a big part in helping them build Breath of the Wild and Tears. And but it's also, I kind of feel like we're at the Zelda equivalent of like the Smash conundrum here, right? Like with Smash, it's like, where do we go from here?
For sure.
We've built something that will be difficult to surpass. And while I don't think it would necessarily, it doesn't quite reach the same level of impossibility to surpass, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. There are obvious things that lots of people would like to see changed about those games. But when you talk about taking Zelda from kind of a more rote, built structure to this vast open world kind of thing. The big question for me is, do they continue with the open world formula, but in a different setting, or do they go back to, the more structured way that previous games were presented and the way that Metroid Prime 4 is presented,
right?
Which is proving to be quite popular. So if they're going back to their roots and doing a more like Ocarina or Majora styled 3D Zelda, then they probably don't need Monolith Soft. If they're going to keep building these giant versions of Hyrule, then they're probably going to pull in the Monolith team to help them at least, get started with it.
Right.
Which might delay anything, which I think means that we get Switch 2 editions. Because that's a easier thing to do, right? Nintendo could call up their buddies at Grezzo and say, hey, we need you to Switch 2ify it, or Panic Button, who did quite a few Switch 2 editions.
Yeah.
And have them upgrade these games while having their bigger development teams focus on new Switch 2 efforts. I do have to say, and I know that we will get more Switch 2 editions. We have at least one confirmed already. I do hope 2026 is the last year of Switch 2 editions. And this is going to sound like the pettiest reason. But I'm so sick of my box art just having Nintendo Switch 2 edition slapped across I know what console I bought this for. The box is red and there's a giant 2 on it.
I thought the same thing with Metroid Prime 4's title screen on Switch 2. You don't need to have that on the title screen too, right?
Yeah, it's such a silly thing, and I do feel like there's a part of Nintendo that is terrified of confusing consumers. Like they're just like, oh, we have to throw this giant thing on here so that people don't know. Like they can't tell that the box is red, that the card is red, that someone at Nintendo very obviously was worried about mixed messaging.
Oh, it's probably lasting trauma from the Wii U, I would think.
Oh, that definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
That was one of those things with the Wii U that I didn't realize was so confusing until other people told me it was. Like I and maybe it's just because, people like you and me, we follow games. It's part of our life. I never questioned what the Wii U was. And I realized later that a lot of like the non-gamers in my life were super just confounded by it. Like they thought it was just the tablet. And I was like, how did you think that?
I was in a Target during the Wii U days, overhearing an employee saying that the Wii U was just an add-on for the Wii and not a new system. I'm like, man, Like I was there hearing them describe it like that, and I'm like, man, Nintendo really missed the ball with the name on this.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me because I think, at least in the modern day, obviously we and Wii U were kind of at the beginning of the smartphone age, you know?
Yeah.
I think that Nintendo probably didn't need to go as hard as they did over explaining the Switch 2, but who knows? Maybe if they didn't, people would just be out there buying Switch 2 games, shoving them into Switches and wondering why they don't work.
Yeah, seriously. It's funny you mentioned Star Fox earlier, and I wanted to circle back to that really quick because to me that's like the ultimate monkey's paw situation where like I like you really want to see Star Fox come back. I want to see them do something with Star Fox, but Star Fox Zero made it clear to me that they don't really know what to do with it. And so I'm in this really weird space where I want a new Star Fox, but I also am not sure if I want one because I don't want another Star Fox 64 retread, right? I want them to do something new with it.
Yeah, it is very strange to me that as much as I love the series, and Star Fox is one of those ones that I don't talk about much, but I really adore. Like I've played every single game, including Command on the DS. Like, if you put Star Fox in a game, I'm buying it. And so, but we have gotten a weird amount of just like, this is the same thing over and over, like the same story. So it's
exactly.
I think the way that, and I've said this in the past on other podcasts, the way you do Star Fox right and you redo it correctly is one, you make it multiplayer. You let 3 of your buddies join you online. Switch 2 would be perfect for it with game chat.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Give me. This is gonna sound cringe maybe, but give me a filter on the Switch 2 webcam. So and then let me pick which of the 4 I am.
Yeah.
And just instead of showing my video feed when I talk over game chat, just have me be Fox and match the mouth movements to my speech.
I would love that.
I would go nuts. I would you'd sell a lot of those webcams that are collecting dust.
Well, it's funny you were mentioning. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the second component of this is you have to make it open universe. You literally can be on the surface of Corneria and just blast off and fly straight across to Venom if you want.
That'd be so cool.
And if you did that, I'd lose it, man. I would just not be able to control myself. That would be a game that I would force upon people so that they could play it with me.
Oh, I hear you. And it's funny. You mentioned Star Fox Command, and I've mentioned this on other podcasts before, but I think Star Fox is at its best when Nintendo really leans into the weird furry space opera-ness of it and like really dedicates themselves to the continuity. Like all the weird endings there were in Star Fox Command and how like sometimes Crystal leaves the team and becomes cursed with a K and, you know, they're on again, off again romance between Crystal and Fox. I love that weird shit, man. I think they should lean into that and not just retell Star Fox 64 over and over again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't turned over Star Fox. I mean, and I mean this like not to as a derogatory thing, but turn it over to Western developers because obviously that's what's happened with Metroid, right? Like Metroid Dread was made by a Spanish developer. Right. Metroid Prime 4, fantastic game made by people in Texas, you know. And Nintendo has found success with this, you know, with a franchise that they couldn't figure out what to do with. And Star Fox is very much in that same position.
Definitely.
And so I think the only reason and that we haven't gotten this treatment for Star Fox is that initially Miyamoto was very involved with it.
Right.
And so I think they don't want to take something of his and give it away. And that's a shame. I think that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Nintendo could make a fantastic Star Fox game. I think they just don't really want to. And I'd love to see it in the hands of capable developers who love this series as much as the fans do.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
Takaya Imamura, I think is his name, right? Or Imura.
Mm-hmm.
He was recently tweeting about another game that was like Star Fox, and seeing him tweet about that, I was like, I'll play that game.
Yeah.
I'll play that game while I wait. I need another Star Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame what's happened to that franchise. I think that it deserves so much more than it's got.
I hope they figure it out. I want them, and I do think handing it over to a Western developer may be the way to go. I agree with you. As you said, it worked with Metroid. You know, I could see it. It worked with Metroid twice, so I think it could work.
Yeah, I truly think it could. I would love if the Starlink team got to make just a full-on Star Fox game.
That would be so cool.
But yeah, it's it's such an interesting thing. All right, before we close the show, I want to go through the months because we kind of have established that Nintendo has had a game a month cadence. And so I want to see, like, let's just, I don't want to say predict. We don't know enough to predict, but I wanted us to each drop a pick for each month before we end out the show. I'm going to start with January. Whatever game it is has to go up against Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which is a great game and a phenomenal game. Switch 2 port, you know, from the experiences I've had playing it. I think you drop a smaller game.
Really?
I think you leave a small game so that Square has time to shine on this one.
Right.
That's my guess. I'm trying to look because we know we have Mario Tennis in February.
Right.
So what would your opening shot be for the year for the Switch 2?
I mean, you don't really get much smaller or more niche than Tomodachi Life, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Plus,
I think coming off of Prime 4, which is a big release.
That's true. Tomodachi Life is a good thing to put in because the audience convergence for Prime 4 and Tomodachi Life is nil.
Right.
Like there's almost nothing. I could see Nintendo doing that. Because I also think that your audience, like, you know, I was surprised to see my 12-year-old go nuts at the announcement of Tomodachi Life. Like, she really popped off and was crazy for this game. But as I'll say, as a father of two, their attention spans are not long. Like they don't hold hype for games the way we do, you know?
Right.
So, you know, when it pops into her mind, she'll ask about it, but there is that very real risk of her just forgetting about it and moving on to something else and never asking about it again. So I'm with you. I think January would be the ideal place to put this. If I were in charge, that's when I would release it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as we know, February is spoken for. We have Mario Tennis Fever. I think that's a great choice because these are like smaller, like, I don't want to say cozy. Mario Tennis is not cozy, but it's like a smaller game.
Right.
You know, something that if you got Metroid Prime for Christmas, you're not going to feel like, oh, I got to finish this before tennis comes out.
Right.
Then we have Pokemon Pokopia, and this is an interesting one because this is basically Dragon Quest Builders / Animal Crossing. You know, but with Pokemon, I saw it. I'm super into it. I'll be picking this up. But I do wonder about the longevity of it. Like, how long will this keep me, you know, entertained? Like, is it going to be something where I play it for like a week and then I'm done? Or will it be like Animal Crossing where, you know, 3 months later, I'm still messing with it. So, either way, I think it's a good thing to drop in the first quarter of the year.
Yeah.
All right. Now, where we start to get into deeper water is April, because now we're 4 months in. We don't, you know, and we're running out of things that we know about.
Right. So April to me feels like a bigger release month because we've had Pokopia, which of course is Pokemon, but it's still kind of a more niche title in that series, right? And Mario Tennis Fever also very different appeal than something really major like Metroid Prime 4. So for me, I'm kind of feeling Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave for April. Like, drop a big tentpole release.
I'm going to actually reverse here because I had a piece of info that I forgot about that we talked about at the top of the show. Tomodachi Life is spring.
Oh, I completely
so it can't possibly be January.
That's right. I forgot.
So I'm going to say Tomodachi Life in April, like at the very beginning of spring, and going back to January. I'm going to throw something out there that doesn't exist. Like we don't know about it. I'm going to say WarioWare, like a really small, just the kind of thing you could do a Twitter drop for and wouldn't compete at all with any of the other games you have. So I would say, you know, you come out of the holiday season, they're like, hey, here's a WarioWare. It's like $29 on the eShop, releases today. And it's just, a real breezy kind of game.
Sure.
But yeah, April for me, Tomodachi Life for sure.
That makes sense. I feel like I forgot that it was spring.
Yeah, right at the starting pistol. I think we had another spring game. Let me see.
We do. It's Yoshi and the Mysterious Book.
And that's what I'd put in May.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think May is like a good time for you know, that's your first like real big, you know, huge game
Yeah.
Like a tentpole release, because people are going to see something that close to Mario as like a big event. I'm also going to go out on a limb and say that that's also when Wonder Switch 2 edition launches.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah.
Like they're basically going to say, hey, Wonder Switch 2 edition is out and Yoshi comes out a week later. You know, if you want to get into that Mario 2D vibe.
Sure.
And that's also right around the release of the film, I think.
That's true too. So that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say those.
For June, I'll just we just had a big month with Yoshi and Mario. So for June, I'm just thinking maybe with a little nice symmetry. Rhythm Heaven Megamix came out in June of its year, so maybe we get like a little weird niche release in June with Rhythm Heaven Groove.
See, now this is where I think it's interesting because this is also the first anniversary of the Switch 2.
Oh, true.
So it's the launch. It's 1 year to the date from launch, and so I figure Nintendo might want to drop a bomb.
That's true.
It's also right in the middle of Summer Game Fest, all that other stuff. It's maybe kind of the release season. Well, not release season, but it's summer preview season. So Nintendo might want to put something big out there. I mean, they dropped the Switch 2 at Summer Game Fest.
That's true.
On the first day of it.
On the first day of it, yeah. Splatoon Raiders gives me kind of summery vibes.
Ooh, that's a really good pick.
Yeah.
Just because I could see them really being like, all right, Splatoon is a very summer-focused game.
Yeah.
And putting that out like a month before school ends for a lot of kids is a really good idea. But also, it's just a good way to kick off summer. So I agree with that. I think that Splatoon Raiders is a really good pick for June. Moving into July. July is typically quieter. I think this is where we might see Rhythm Heaven.
I think so too. I think it's a good shout for July.
Yeah, because you just got out of the June news cycle, which is nuts. And you're in between kind of the pre-fall avalanche of events. Tokyo Game Show, PAX West, Gamescom. You have that period to breathe, and I think that's when you put out a smaller game.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree.
All right, so now we're getting into kind of the funny part of the year, because August is quite quiet usually, at least from a news perspective, because it's really that October to December category where you start just seeing avalanches of games coming out, right?
Right.
Because people want to capitalize on the holiday shopping season. It's tough for me because some of these games, it's like it would be helpful to know a bit more about them.
Yeah. The only major one we haven't mentioned yet that we don't know a whole lot about either is Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave.
And that's exactly what I'm thinking about as I say this, because I'm like, all right, the original Fire Emblem, when did Three Houses come out? Let me see.
I think that was a late summer release, if I remember correctly.
I feel like it was.
Yeah. I think it was August, actually.
Let's see. It came out in July, towards the end of July in 2019. July 26th to be specific. But so yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say August. Fire Emblem. Screw it. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, I think, would be a really cool game to release, especially if it's still centered. And we don't know, but if it's centered around the Academy from Three Houses, then that's a good time to put a game like that out. Frankly, This is one of my most anticipated games of 2026, so I don't care when you release it.
Yeah.
Just release it.
There is one that we've forgotten about that might be a really good shout for September, and that's Pokemon Champions.
Oh my gosh, I did forget about Pokemon Champions. That was announced alongside Pokopia.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it too, and I just Googled upcoming Nintendo games. That was the one that we missed.
Yeah, so I would have to say, I'm looking at the release schedule now to make sure I didn't miss anything else. But yeah, I could see Pokemon Champions in September. I don't know enough about that game, but I feel like you could also drop a Pokemon game almost any time in the year and it would be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Pokemon lives in its own universe where it just prints money. So I think it'd be fine. But yeah, I could take that as the September game. I agree with that. So what are we thinking? October, if I knew for a fact that Next Level was working on Luigi's Mansion 4, I'd be like, October, there you go. And done. That's a tough one for me. October,
yeah, because we're kind of out of games that we know about.
I'm gonna say, I mean, this is basically like what are Nintendo's heavy hitters for 26 gonna be,
right?
And
you were mentioning 3D Mario, but that would probably be November if that's a thing.
Yeah, I feel like 3D Mario, a brand new 3D Mario would be in November of the year.
Yeah.
So I'll skip that. October, I would say that we would get whatever Next Level is working on. I'm gonna say Punch Out because that's the one I want them to be doing.
Okay.
So my end of year prediction is this. Well, guess is this. Don't call it a prediction. I'm wrong. October we get like Punch Out or whatever Next Level's on. November we get a 3D Mario.
Okay.
Whatever the next evolution of 3D Mario is, please be Galaxy 3. And then in December, typically we get some kind of release in December. This year it happened to be huge.
Yeah.
It's never like a small thing. Like we got Xenoblade in the first year of the Switch 2, 2 months after Mario Odyssey in October. Gosh, what would we get in December? I'm going to go ahead and say that we would get, I'm going to say we get Star Fox. I'm going to say we get a Star Fox game, like something kind of offbeat and very different from Mario that has a completely different vibe. Because like I said, I think we're far out from Zelda. I will say at some point throughout the year, I do think we get a Zelda game dropped. I feel like Nintendo has been trying to annualize Zelda, but I think it'll be like a re-release of an old game, like an Ocarina of Time port or Twilight Princess HD or Wind Waker HD. One of those that is on the Wii U that never made it to the Switch 1. We'll get that ported over to Switch 2.
Right. I was also wondering if maybe at some point we could possibly get like a up-resed Dread-esque version of Samus Returns. Because I feel like that would be a pretty obvious thing to do. Samus Returns was really well received on 3DS. Dread was obviously very well received on Switch. Just make an HD version of Samus Returns and drop that anytime, right?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that Samus Returns should not be locked to the 3DS. It is such a great game, and if you're really interested in the history of specifically Metroid Dread, one of the best games in the Metroid franchise, you have to play Samus Returns, and it's becoming more difficult to do that. Now, on the flip side, they could offer DS and 3DS NSO next year and then put it on there, which I think is possible.
I think it is too. I had this on my list just to mention at some point, but the one system that I want to come to Nintendo Classics or NSO, whatever you want to call it, is 3DS, because there are so many great games that are locked to that hardware, like Kid Icarus Uprising, A Link Between Worlds, Samus Returns, 3D Land. Like, there are so many games I'd love to be able to play on the big screen that are locked to 3DS right now.
Oh, yeah. And Nintendo has had, since before the Switch 2 came out, a patent for a secondary screen that you can attach to the Switch 2. Right. So I feel like it's a matter of time. I don't know if we'll get a 3D glasses-free display, but I do think they will at some point release a screen that latches onto the upper port of the Switch 2 on its USB and just lets you play 3DS games in handheld mode like that.
That'd be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I would take that. Oh, and conversely, they'll probably just let you play them in like a kind of, stacked single screen in docked mode, which is not the right way to play them. If you do that, you're doing it wrong. But, I won't begrudge you not spending. I would assume Nintendo will charge like $200 for that display.
Well, I mean, they're already charging what, $100 for the Virtual Boy display?
Yeah, for the Virtual Boy dock that literally just you stick your Switch into and stick your head in it.
It's too funny. Yeah.
So I and it doesn't even have the controller, which is baffling. Like you still have to use a Pro controller or your Joy-Con. So, make of that what you will, but Nintendo will find a way.
Exactly.
But yeah, okay. So Ash, your October through December, what do you have?
I actually pretty much agreed with what you said. We had Pokemon Champions for September. October does feel like something kind of weird, like Punch Out. I guess for me, if I had to choose, my smaller weird franchise that I'd like to see instead of Punch Out would be Wave Race. Late summer, still summery enough for, Wave Race summery vibes.
Wave Race would be great.
Yeah, so I guess I might switch out Punch Out for Wave Race if I had a choice, but I'd love to see both, of course. November, I mean, like you, it's too soon for a new 3D Zelda. It's hard for me to think that a 3D Mario is coming next year, but if it was, that would be the month for it. Otherwise, there are only so many franchises. I mean, There is that persistent rumor. This wouldn't be a November release. This would be like on an off month. But there is that persistent rumor that they're working on an HD remaster of Kirby Planet Robobot. And they could drop that anytime. Kirby's like one of those things that you drop whenever you want, and it does fine. So when we haven't mentioned Kirby at all. So
yeah, that's true.
I could see Kirby for October, actually, like a Planet Robobot HD. Maybe they're doing like a dual pack of Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, both 3DS games in HD. And I could see that for really October. Cool. Yeah, so I could see that for October. If there is anything for November, it's going to be 3D Mario. It's too soon for Zelda. It's too soon for Animal Crossing. It's too soon for Metroid. So it's, probably 3D Mario. I guess, yeah. And then I agree with you about December, something a little off. Kirby could slot in there. If it's like a new mainline 3D Kirby, then that's a bigger release. But if it's like a Planet Robobot HD, that could be a very easily slottable into December, right?
Yeah, agreed 100%. Well, obviously, no one knows what Nintendo has planned except for Nintendo, and maybe sometimes not even them. Yeah. But we will have to see. I'm excited for Nintendo's 2026. I think 2025 was a banger year for Nintendo. We had a lot of great games.
Yeah.
And if they keep up this one a month cadence, we're not going to be going hungry. So it'll be interesting to see, at minimum, we're a month away from Final Fantasy VII, which I will want to talk about here on the Week in Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
When we get our hands on that. But I don't know about you, Ash, but it's time for me to go back and play as much Prime 4 as I can before we have to record again.
It's Friday, which means it's almost the weekend, which means it's Prime 4 time, baby.
Yeah, it is prime time. So thank you guys so much for watching or listening. If you're here on YouTube or you're on Spotify, we appreciate the support. Please make sure to follow us on Spotify. I don't know what that does, but they keep telling me to ask you that. So if you listen on Spotify, please make sure you follow GVG and The Week in Nintendo. If you want extra benefits and you want to get each and every episode of The Week in Nintendo just that little bit early, a day in most cases, you can head over to patreon.com/gvgaming and join silver or above to get access to that, as well as a whole host of other benefits. But that's going to do it for us for this week. We appreciate all of you hanging out and listening to us guess wildly about what's going to happen in the future. I hope you all are happy, safe, and healthy wherever you are. And we'll see you right here next week on The Week in Nintendo. Until then, bye.
Bye.